This week's flagship sets sail on the hardware wars, reshaping streaming. Roblox's older audience may be its next big opportunity to actually grow. AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile are best buds now, at least for satellite connectivity, where apparently we're all headed, whether we want to or not. Gossip Goblin is transfixing the part of Hollywood that's not already transfixed by the threats of AI. And finally, the only people making money on the World Cup that is right around the corner might just be FIFA. Big shock.
Yeah.
Welcome to the flagship edition of the Next TMT Talks podcast. I'm David Bloom, co-founder, along with Daniel Frankel, my co-founder over here on the side of me. We talk about all things technology, media, and telecom. And let's kick it off. Daniel, you dove into, this tvOS stuff seems sleepy. And in fact, it seems like it is reshaping everything in terms of where the money goes, who gets their shows seen, all the rest. It is kind of the fight now. It's not just how many shows you put out there, but whether anybody can find them and who decides whether you do.
Well, you know what they say? Absolute
What do they say?
Power corrupts absolutely.
No, yeah, I seem to recall that from my political science classes. I kind of slept through that week, but I still got a decent grade. So anyhow, so it corrupts absolutely. So how does it corrupt? Oh, young political seer.
Well, let's steer away from
absolute corruption
and get into what our good friends and sponsors at Looper Insights say is kind of an escalating situation. This month in their Streamer of the Month ranker, I should say in April, an event that never happened before happened. The unthinkable, Dave, in a Roku channel show, a special reunion episode of the old MTV reality show Laguna Beach surfaced in terms of their ranking of visibility on platform. What Looper does is
so an ad-supported only show, a rehash of a cable TV show that really had a nice little run, but let's just be frank, was never that big a deal, except in a very certain set of folks. Made it onto the top 10?
Among all Netflix and Amazon Prime and
among everything that's out there, all the things that are going on,
merchandise
and everything else. Yeah.
And the inevitable conclusion is that's because of Roku, which has 100 million using households now, can put it there. It can put it on the homepage of its own platform and gain that
home field advantage, right?
Right. And it's a massive advantage for Amazon. It's going to be a massive advantage for Google TV this summer when they start putting YouTube shorts in the discovery layer of the OS, meaning one of the first things you'll see when you fire up your television. So
they're finally going to enter, just to be clear, because I think this is sort of not understood. YouTube Shorts, their short form video slice of the zillions of things on YouTube, will finally be integrated into the things that you see naturally. It's not just this own little ghetto off in the corner. It's going to be part of the thing that pops up on your TV if it's a Google TV OS, right?
Right. Now, in your our respective haunts, you don't know too much about the ghetto over there in beautiful Santa Monica, Dave. But I could say this. Lucas knows what he's talking about. Google TV has been surfacing content from YouTube for some time in the discovery layer. And I find it just because it's so personalized, so honed in on my taste in football fandom or whatever I'm into, that it beats CTV choices every time. If I don't have a paid subscription streaming thing that I'm ready to watch, I'm just tuned in to watch, appointment television, and I'm looking for something to watch, YouTube beats CTV 9 out of 10 times. And I think you integrate the power of shorts in there, which have come on strong the last couple of years. It's going to be a pretty provocative thing. So,
well, more than provocative, it's going to be highly profitable and impact everybody who doesn't have that special relationship,
right,
as it were, right? I mean, really the key here is, again, it's all about view time. And if I'm busy watching more stuff on YouTube Shorts, I'm not watching TikTok, I'm not watching Instagram Reels, I'm not watching Netflix, I'm not watching HBO Max or any of the others out there. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm just kind of watching what's popping up that tickles my particular set of fancies on the vast YouTube platform, but the short form part that gets playlisted for me, right? So I don't even have to think about it. It's just here's one, here's another, here's another, here's another, until I cry uncle and collapse in my oatmeal
Yeah, I
or
mean, YouTube,
whatever.
Lucas has correctly identified an issue, but YouTube is the most dominant, most scary specter in the video business right now, and it's about to get even more scary. So I thought it was
So that's despite the fact that Roku, with its 100 million really nice Americans, well, North American really, but mostly American audience, Roku,
well, they're still in a great
they're able
position.
to
They
serve
can
it up.
drive a lot. I
Yeah,
mean, they can promote themselves. You know, the broadcast networks used to have the power of their own air. You may lose money on the NFL, but you could promote your latest series and drive a big number to it that way.
right. Not just the slot after the Super Bowl, but all season long. You're saying stay tuned after CBS NFL football for Tractor or whatever,
How
right?
this could affect apps like Peacock and Paramount Plus. They're not directly
Like
tied.
that's that second tier is a little more vulnerable, is I think what you're
Well,
saying,
people are
right?
always going to find Netflix. It's on their remote control, and Disney Plus to an extent. But like you said, the second tier or third tier, however you describe it, app-based discovery is falling by the wayside. So that
This
was
is going to really force, I think, or further hasten second tier consolidation. We will see that, obviously, presuming the Paramount Skydance acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery goes through. That will be one instead of two services. God knows what they're going to come up with. I hope it's not too lame, but that will take one off the table. But you have to imagine there's going to be one or two others that are going to get merged up. And I don't know how AMC and Stars keep doing their thing. AMC's making a big stink out of the Audacity, their new series, and they've got some other little niche streaming services. I don't understand how they're surviving. Niche is important for a specific audience if you can super serve it, but can they make enough to get people to say, "I'm going to pay 3, 4, $5, whatever it is a month for the privilege of the handful of shows you're going to put up that I can't find anywhere else."
yeah. People have been talking about that level of consolidation for years, and I don't know why
Right?
it happened either. Maybe relative to cost, it's just not that much of a transcendental leap for anybody. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I uh, I found a lot to look at in my conversation on Thursday in Vancouver. You see behind me, from the home of the English Consul General's home, a view of English Bay in Vancouver, where apparently a lot of the cargo ships hang out before they go into the working part of
Well,
the
I hope
harbor
you
over
were
by the
wearing the
convention
sunblock
center.
because oh my god, looks
Yeah,
the
but it's
UV.
cool. I mean, it's such a ridiculously beautiful place. And but a working man's place. I mean, there's a lot of blue collar boats doing shipping and ferrying and flying people to islands and stuff,
Uh,
warships and lumber ships and stuff. It's a very stuffed place,
I
which is
was in
cool.
Golden Gate Park taking photos. I didn't include him. There were none of that blue collar stuff there.
No, 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 no. They're over in Oakland, basically, across the bay. Anyway, so in Vancouver for Web Summit Vancouver, did two panels. Second panel, we talked about the first panel on our midweek show that we do with our friends at Media Play News. This here in the flagship, just wanted to mention a conversation with the CMO of Roblox, Jared West. Had a great conversation. It's only about 19, 20 minutes. They get them on and off. I mean, it is clockwork up there. Those guys have it down. They do it 4 different places around the planet. They have it down. But the conversation about Roblox and where it's going, and one of the things it's interesting right now, they had by Michael
Did they cut you off,
Nathanson's
David?
estimation. What?
Did they cut you off? Did they
They
cut
did
you
no, no.
short?
It's like that's just the game, man. It's what you do. You get up there, you do your thing, you get off, and you go do some. And then you have a bunch of fantastically interesting conversations in the speakers lounge with one interesting person after another. It's like a giant barrel of fish, and you're not even fishing. You're just kind of grabbing the next fish and grabbing the next fish and talking to that fish because that fish is really interesting as fish go. But it was amazing. Some of the people I saw there got to see a really cool presentation by Aloe Black, the hip hop guy. I need some money. Da-da-da, money's what I need. There was a theme show of a streaming TV show maybe 10 years ago, doing a really interesting presentation. Curtis Yarvin, the regrettable authoritarian guy, was there holding court in one area. Adam Sandler walked through. I mean, it's really, they get some
Curtis
named
Yarvin?
people. It's Curtis Yarvin. Yeah,
Who's
he's one of the architects of the far right.
oh,
He's saying that we need a corporate monarch guy instead of this democracy thing.
yeah.
Anyway, but a wide range of people talk about a wide range of ideas and technology and all the rest. Mad props to the Web Summit people. Anyway, so I was having a conversation on stage with Jared West about where Roblox goes, and they had a fantastic 2025. But now their numbers have come down a little bit because they've had to do age verification. A little bit more than half of their users are now age verified. So they've had to, because they got to protect the kids in the face of all the new legislation in South Carolina and Australia and all that. So now they've seen their numbers come down a little bit. But their next big opportunity, it looks like, will be with older players. They've always been the teens and tweens place, right? You know, to create games, 8 million experiences, active experiences, 131 million daily users, pretty good number. And really interesting in that regard. But now this increment, they're almost 20 years old now. This increment of kids who've grown up with the platform and then started creating stuff and now are doing brand deals and creating experiences for brands and games that they can make money off of it. Some of these guys are getting 6 and 7 figure payments from these guys. And the big growth is in that 18 to 25 range. So that's really interesting. And it's interesting enough that now the game companies that have been publishing on PlayStation and Xbox and PC are going, you know, you got 131 million users. That's about as many PlayStations has ever been sold in this generation. That looks kind of interesting. Maybe we should be publishing over there like it's just another console, which I found fascinating. So watch what these guys do. They've got elevated capex. They're going to try and get more photorealistic gaming experiences to take it up. It's going to cost them more. They're going to pay their older developers more, which is interesting to get like more grown-up experiences. You're going to see more like first-person shooters and stuff like that, but are kind of age blocked, right? So they're going to go through an interesting transition here to try to capture an older, their folks as they get a little older. Instead of handing them off to Fortnite, they're going to try and go with them and encourage them to stick around. So I find that really fascinating. So that was part of the cool last day.
If you could get married in South Carolina at 13, you should be able to play a game.
Or at least put it on. Actually, if you get married at 13 in South Carolina, you should be at least able to post your wedding photos on TikTok, right? That just seems fair.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do I know? Okay. So moving on from Roblox, though, you talked about a highly unusual partnership between the three biggest traditional wireless carriers for what could be the next era of wireless communication up in the sky, the satellite stuff.
Right.
AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon actually acting like buds. That's crazy.
Well, it's the backdrop of the satellite broadband revolution. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and others are launching satellites with the idea that it's a better way to reach hard to reach places like rural regions with wireless connectivity. And you need traditional terrestrial aspects to that network. You need what's called an MVNO partner to make that a reality. And neither T-Mobile or AT&T or Verizon wanted to be Elon's MVNO partner for his satellite gig. But they did form this alliance. It's a joint venture to agree on a joint venture. So there's nothing in paper yet.
This sounds like something the Trump administration would do. We have a framework for a possible conversation about an outline of a considered deal memo that could lead to possibly a settlement of a transaction that benefits my son. That's what it sounds like.
One analyst suggested that none of the three CEOs from those companies was on an Air Force One with Trump going to China, but Musk was. And you face that regulatory backdrop, you get cagey. But the alliance, such as it is, has been lauded as kind of a very fair, very great way for standards to be developed for the wireless companies to work with satellite companies to bring very useful services to all Americans. Roger
You know, it's
Idner.
interesting because Apple already is incorporating satellite connectivity
Right.
components.
And it doesn't
You
affect
know,
any of that. Everybody's free
yeah,
to make their own deals, but what it
right,
does
right, right.
is technical standards and prevent anybody from being left behind and a free for all. Analysts don't seem to know what to make of it. Like I said, there's some cynicism to it. There's some belief that Musk doesn't like it already. Is the COO president of SpaceX kind of poo-pooed it on Twitter or X over the weekend. And based on that, there's a general belief that the DOJ will never let it happen. And there's also, like I said, why are they not just formalizing it? Why are they, it's a press release, not a deal at this
That's,
point.
though, that could be basically sending up a trial balloon and seeing how fast it gets shot down or not, because you don't want to end up like the NFL with like an antitrust exemption for the next 70 years when, like transmission methods change, right? I think it's probably a trial balloon, just to see what the powers that be decide, since they weren't on the plane that that Saturday
Right.
Night Live's bit with James Austin Johnson had it. I do what every 80-year-old does, a whirlwind 48-hour trip to China and back. It's like kind of like that. You didn't get to do that trip in Bond.
Well, there's
So
also belief that SpaceX is about to do the big dog and pony show ahead of its IPO. And this is a way to divert attention and claim some flex some clout ahead of that.
we're not done yet. Not dead yet.
What I think is,
Yeah, you got it. You got to stick. I mean, look, that's a $1 trillion valuation possible IPO. They're trying to get it out the door faster than OpenAI and Anthropic can get out the door.
what I think
Anything you
interesting.
can do to not have all the oxygen sucked up makes sense to me. But I really think there's a trial balloon thing going on here.
Gwynne Shotwell, the president CEO of SpaceX, her tweet is, "Well, I guess Starlink Mobile is doing something right. It's David and Goliath, version 3 all over again. I'm betting on David," which is kind of funny. SpaceX is valued at like $350 billion by some going into its IPO, and to refer to it as a David, or I don't think T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon is.
Well, I just want to say, as a David, some of us are pretty tall. There's that.
Right.
So just saying, some of us not quite Goliath proportion, but bigger than your average bear. So perhaps she was thinking about me, because that's of course what the SpaceX CEO should be doing, as opposed to the guy in the book that you may
I will
have
say
heard of,
this:
the Old
the
Testament thing.
analyst that I really like and sort of got an education on this thing, Roger Idner of Recon Analytics, an expert on the wireless field. And he talks about Musk, and he really believes he's a visionary guy, and he's not a detractor, but he just says he just does not play well with people. And you really have to separate his vision, which is legit, from his immature theatrics when it comes to public communication about his rivals. There's a real disconnect there.
Right. Yeah, you really shouldn't. You shouldn't be counting on him for the most human seeming communication to humans, right?
So
That's not what we count on from Elon Musk.
I'll just get this out of the way right now. The Kalshi betting for his big trial, which is over with testimony.
All right. By the time
General,
this thing comes out, the jury deliberations will be about to start on Monday. Yeah.
Right. Let's hope that none of the jurors made Kalshi bets, but it's 20% that Musk wins his case against OpenAI and Sam Altman at this point. The belief
only
is
20% though. That's a 5-to-1 odds, basically. That's interesting.
Right. the way it was described, Semaphore did a good job of this. They talked about it, like it's a classic. He wants to split the baby thing.
Hmm.
He can't have it. He wants to destroy it. And
Right.
but despite embarrassing testimony at times, what Altman and company proved was that by forming the for-profit venture, they provided more resources actually for the nonprofit venture portion.
Absolutely. I
So,
find it interesting that you made a reference yet again to David, because splitting the baby was a decision by King Solomon, whom David eventually supplanted, but was
right.
originally working for. And when he threw the rock off of
Oh,
Goliath's
I
forehead.
didn't know it was a biblical thing. It's interesting.
Well, two women claim they have the same baby, and he says, "Okay, well, we'll just split the baby. We'll just divide the baby." And one is like, "Okay," and the other was like freaking out, and it's like, of course, that's the mother, not the one that's like, "Oh, whatever," So split the baby.
Right.
If you do something like that, that obviously makes moot the future babiness. You know. But I just love that David's dominating the conversation.
Well,
It just
the,
makes
the
me feel
sum
so
total
special.
was neither Altman or Musk came out of the thing looking good at all. I mean, a lot of embarrassing details.
No, we knew that was going to happen. It's a little bit like that case I refused to lose sleep over, time over, bandwidth, brain cycles over the Justin Baldoni, Blake, whatever her name is,
Like
case. I
Lively.
was like refusing to go into it. Yes, it was all this juicy stuff about terrible behaviors by terrible people and, astroturfed social media campaigns and PR campaigns and all this stuff. Whatever, fine. I don't know. Pox on all your houses. Let's hope you don't get employed anytime soon. Just don't bother us anymore. And then they settled and went away, and thank goodness. So this is a little bit like that, right? I mean, everybody looks bad. Everybody looks bad. You don't want to go to court if you can figure it out.
So I have a little gossip related item. I don't know if you saw it. It's at the bottom. I just put it in the newsletter. I'm gonna let you go first. You mentioned something along those lines. Talk about your thing.
On gossip? Oh, Gossip Goblin. Oh, yeah.
Uh,
So, Guardian had a fun article about this guy. He's Zach London. Okay. Zach London from California, lives in Sweden. You got that? This is a geography quiz. But turns out he's exploring the frontiers of AI filmmaking in really interesting ways with a little consortium of other Swedish crazy people doing cool stuff. And they are taking the AI tools and making uh, disturbing, cool, weird, horror-ish stuff. The first cycle of humanity is basically a very dark retelling of a crucial component of the Wall-E story. And it's like, whoa. But what's interesting is it is artistically interesting and compelling and
you mean it's not just a
visually
cute
quite
love
striking.
story?
What?
It's not just a cute love story. You're having
Well,
Wall-E.
depending on your love for corpulent, gross, fat people, just stuffing things in their faces and having entertainment beamed in their heads, and then there's a power outage. Doesn't work. Oops, spoiler alert.
By and large,
So he's been doing a
right.
bunch of this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a. Well, I guess it was made 20 years ago, so they didn't have Ozempic yet. But I got
No, nor did they have floating couches, but there's sometimes you got to look forward. But the real point is that Gossip Goblin and people like him, to me anyway, the point is you don't have to love his jam, so to speak, to realize that there are people out there who are not just making slop. They are taking the tools and doing interesting things. We will see more of this during the AI on the Lot conference coming up later this month, actually on the Amazon lot. But what Gossip Goblin is doing is an example of the auteurs and creators that are doing things on the Roblox platform in interesting ways, and will do it more so with higher quality tools and more pay, and people who are doing things, throwing it up on YouTube, throwing it up in other places, finding ways to create compelling, mostly short films these days. But that's now. There's a lot of crap out there. But by the way,
I think
Hollywood makes a lot of crap too. And they've got billions of dollars and gatekeepers and professionals involved, and they make crap too. So don't be talking about how crappy all this stuff is. My point was really that we've just about got labor peace in our time. 4-year deals. Actually, Jonathan Handel, who has followed, he's a labor lawyer who's followed the AI stuff closely in the collective bargaining agreements between the guilds, the actors and writers, et cetera, and the studios. It's interesting what they're doing with synthetic actors, and they're creating the rules of the road for the Tilly Norwoods and stuff like that, and the digital replicas who are different. So the synthetics, they just call them synthetics. Now they don't call them actors; they just call them synthetics. This is very Blade Runner-esque, but they've got rules that basically keep the human part prime, and if you use a synthetic, you can't have it derived in any way looking like anybody in particular. But the ways you do it, I mean, the rules I think are really interesting to check out. So,
yeah,
progress. And no strikes. Double progress, as far as I'm concerned.
So, progress. The NFL released its 2026 regular season schedule last week.
Finally, this is how they occupy the month of May, by releasing the schedule.
The Growler, the Cincinnati Bengals podcast, talking about the complexity of making the schedule. But I think his real job now is fighting through all the misinformation coming out about the NFL and streaming. Now, on Thursday's issue, we had Lightshed, Richard Greenfield's outfit. They put together a kind of interesting grid about how streaming is making it more accessible, not less. There's a lot of price flexibilities. Nobody's really getting priced out of that market. They're consuming less of it through pay TV and having to pay for other ways, but it doesn't appear like this $1,000 to watch the games, a game, according to our president, is a reality. Anyway.
Now, it is fair to say that our president might be trying to figure out a way where he could charge $1,000 to watch a game. Because that is, in fact, what's going on with the other kind of football out there. FIFA and the World Cup is right around the corner.
Let me finish this.
Okay, finish your thing. We got to do the FIFA though, man, because this is crazy, and it's actually happening sooner than the NFL. But go.
Well, the NFL proceeded with something that's been discussed for a while. Netflix is going to get more games. They're going to get a start of the season game on a Thursday. I think it's Thursday in Australia for Friday.
So it's really Wednesday here.
Yeah, I think it'll be Friday here, but the game will be still on Thursday there.
No, it's the other way, man. It's like if it's Thursday there, we haven't gotten to Thursday yet.
No, what are they past that line?
The sun goes over Australia before it comes to us.
Okay,
so if it plays there, we are behind the date line.
Gotcha. So early September, start of the season game between the 49ers and Rams.
It's like a MAC game. Midweek, mid-season MAC game.
There's
it's in Australia on Netflix.
There's a Thanksgiving Eve game, which never happened before, and there's
Speaking of Wednesdays, yeah.
So Netflix has 5 games instead of just 2. Netflix is in over 70 million U.S. homes, so plenty of people have access to it, more now than that have pay TV. But still,
by a lot,
a couple of bipartisan duo of Congress people from the great state of Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, Democrat senator, and Tony Weed, Republican, Wisconsin, in the House, have crafted the For the Fans Act, which stipulates that if a game is in streaming, it has to be available to local fans of the teams in a free model somewhere, either over the air or streaming, which Netflix already does. I don't understand. Fox News had a regurgitated Tammy Baldwin statement from last month when she introduced the bill, saying enough is enough about the movement to streaming. I don't understand what the hoopla is about. More games are on broadcast than ever. You can see any game you want. You don't have to pay a dime if you have the right antenna. It just seems like manufacturing a problem for the sake of.
You mean like it could be politicians in an election year putting things up? Is that it? No. That never happens.
Yeah, through the roof.
Not to mention,
we don't want to be a war with, and this bullshit. It's nonsense.
I am so glad. I'm so glad they can solve the many problems facing our country by striking a blow for local broadcast of football games.
But FIFA,
That is solving the major issues facing our country.
but
Go you, Tammy,
a
and Weed,
very
whoever you
super
are.
focused, beneficial organization like FIFA. That's a good transition. That there's somebody has the consumer's charity
Yes,
in mind.
FIFA, noted consumer advocate, FIFA. So it turns out, last last two World Cups were in Russia, notedly consumer friendly, and Qatar, notedly hot. Both paid a suspiciously large amount of money that may not have been fully disclosed to powers that be to get the games and the prestige and attention that comes from it. Qatar spent an estimated $200 billion. Now, they spent a lot of it on things like airports and roads and stuff, stadiums and things that they were going to build anyway, or maybe they weren't, but, they got oil money, so they were going to spend it and build out the country a little bit. Russia, who knows, but 130 billion is a number. And they may have made 2 billion in direct stuff, maybe another bump of 1% in their GDP for Qatar from indirect stuff, people going and buying stuff. But there's a suspicion this time around, and you certainly see it when you hear rumbles from hotels and restaurants and Airbnb people and stuff in various markets, that FIFA is going to make something like $13 billion off of this with the TV rights in 40 more countries than ever, and 3 host countries and 16 venues over about 5 weeks. I happen to be, and forgive me for this, I happen, because I'm just worn out from my trip and my spouse's stuff, injury. I stopped at a McDonald's today and I had a sandwich. The bag had the upcoming Los Angeles
You
only
talking about what that
games.
sandwich was?
Oh, it's a quarter pounder, man. That's all I eat. I eat the quarter pounders. I get 2. I get 2 quarter pounders, and one's a meal. So I get iced tea with no sweetener. I get the French fries, which are best in the business, and I get 2 quarter pounders.
That's
And
a
I eat them
solid
these
order of
days like
meal.
once a year, maybe once every 2 years. But man,
Yeah.
gotta eat. So,
Listen,
but I was fascinated that even McDonald's is showing preliminary round, five of those, and then 2 game of 32 games, and then quarterfinal game just in LA. So that's 8 games. That's eight games in LA, but none of the big ones. Like New York gets the final. But FIFA is taking over, and there's some really unexpected costs too. So like not only, I mean, as of now, FIFA has taken over all of those stadiums, and they're taking over parking lots of like the Meadowlands because they have their own fan experiences that they're doing. So the fans can't just park there and just park there and tailgate. They're going to have to take a $150 train ride from Manhattan or whatever and park there. But the stadium is closed off for anything else for a month before the games. So you can't book in, Taylor Swift or whoever to come through. And FIFA keeps all the money and doesn't share much of anything. And so people are kind of going, I don't know about this. This wonderful hotel that I was staying at in Vancouver, the Fairmont Pacific Rim, and they were extraordinary. And let me just give them a shout out for their wonderful support to my injured spouse. Amazing place, beautiful hotel with an amazing view out over the harbor, right across the street from the convention center. But they have all the FIFA balls and stuff in cases and big mannequins kicking the balls up in the bar area and stuff. I mean, they're ready now and they're expecting stuff to come. And they're kind of like, yeah, we'll see what we get. Because Vancouver's obviously one of the places, even as its own Major League Soccer team, is probably going to leave because it's got such a terrible stadium deal that it's probably going to go to Las Vegas, which is a shame because they have a great fan base up there that's very involved. But they're probably going to lose that franchise because they can't. They got a terrible deal with the BC place where the FIFA games will be played also. So it's almost like FIFA is running
Las Vegas.
BC
This
place
is
for the Vancouver team.
your poor, deserving stadium deal refugees, the Raiders.
Well, the fact is, just plain folks vote for stadium deals or don't, but their elected officials do.
Yeah.
And the just plain old taxpayers and even the fans get ripped off over and over and over again. and somehow this is okay. This has been going on for a long time.
The boom years going
I
under
will
the
say that SoFi and Intuit Dome here in LA, or here in Inglewood, technically, down the street from me, a few miles. Those Inglewood gave them some sweetheart deals, but most of that got paid by two of the richest people in the world, Stan Kroenke and Steve Ballmer. So there's that, and
I
they're
will
beautiful, beautiful facilities.
I will just say this, since we are going into sports and kind of outside the bounds a little bit. I am super intrigued by this Oklahoma City San Antonio matchup. I mean, on some level, it's a couple mid-market teams, but I don't know that two Goliaths in terms of accumulated talent have gone each other in a 7-game series like this. It's going to be really fun to watch. It starts tomorrow.
Well, it is a shame that it's only at the the conference finals level. The real important thing to me is you've got a Canadian MVP, defending a MVP. You've got a French probable MVP, certainly Defensive Player of the Year in Victor Wembanyama, leading their teams, who are tremendous, young, extraordinarily talented teams. I mean, they're just so deep. But the NBA, its last 8 MVP winners are all foreign born. I mean, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is
How old
Canadian,
is
but I mean, he's
Wembanyama?
still foreign born. What?
Wemby's what, 23? Wembanyama, the Frenchman, he's 23?
He's 23. And Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is 26. I mean, these guys are baby. I mean, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander looks like you should be rocking him to sleep, other than the fact he's 6'7".
Bill
But he's got
Simmons
such a young face, you know?
taken to task the inside the NBA crew. He doesn't think that Shaq and Guinea and Charles have transitioned particularly well to the new ESPN paradigm. And he made some good points about it. But this new kind of studio show that they have over on Amazon Prime has Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki. I forget the ringleader's name, the Ernie of the group, what her name is, but she's quite good.
Mm.
They had Wimby on recently, right before the Minnesota series, the semifinals were starting. And he's really just poised and mature and just speaks so well for a 23-year-old kid who English probably isn't his native language. And
No,
just,
it's not. He's French. He's French. He's a French national, but I think
yeah,
he's by way of Senegal or something. I mean, his family's from an African country. I can't remember which one. I'd have to look it up. But yes,
like, let's say
so it's
this,
probably his third or fourth language.
Tim Duncan arrived in 1999, and it wasn't until 16 years later, 15 years later, that he won his last title. So I think we're gonna see seeing this kid for a really long time. Tim Duncan was
Well, and don't forget that they've got several other great players. The interesting thing to me is I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Where does the NBA go? I was driving home from seeing my spouse at the hospital, and these guys, these knuckleheads on local talk radio, sports talk radio, were saying there's no face of the league because these guys are from other places and you can't promote them to Americans. Like, only you idiots. Like, are you telling me people don't get excited? And not to mention, what about the rest of the planet being excited to see Victor Wembanyama be amazing?
what's the point? If they're not in big markets, or what's the? I don't get it.
No, that they're foreign born, and therefore the league can't promote them to Americans because Americans need Americans to be able to be excited about the NBA.
Yeah, I don't.
That's really what it's
Maybe a
about.
certain segment, but I think there's folks who are from other places who really think it's cool. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like amazing that you can see the best players in the world in the NBA play each other. And if Jokic is the only player from his native country, but he's Nikola Jokic, great. I get to see him instead of him just beating up, Lilliputian players in his home country. I get to see him with the best players in the world beating up on them. It's great,
Speaking of beaten up on,
personally.
did you see David Letterman go on Stephen Colbert the other night? And
Well, I saw him abuse
yeah,
watermelons and office chairs
yeah, it
in
was fun to watch
classic Letterman
WCBS
fashion.
on air to bash the network. I thought that was appropriate.
Yeah.
I
So
was
just to clarify, in terms of Wembanyama's background, his father is Congolese from the Democratic Republic of Congo. His mother is French. He was born outside of Paris. So,
Clarify.
yeah.
Yeah, I did want to say something. I looked at CBS's numbers this year, and with news in the tank and late night being forsaken, uh, I don't know what the late night number. Even with big football numbers, you reduce that promotion platform. There were no green shoots, and they weren't at the upfronts. They're supposedly strategically pivoting away from that model and doing a series of
I
year-round.
think they're strategically pivoting to disaster, but that's just
Yeah, if you look
a
at the
guess.
numbers, it's all kind of transitioning to another model, and broadcast is what it is. But they're degrading faster than most. And speaking of deserved it, I also looked at the
I was just
field.
thinking about degrading faster than most as I was thinking about myself. But anyway, that's an aside.
You're fighting
Where were you
fight.
going?
It's a rough week. We'll get into that in a second. But
Yeah.
I was on the road and observing my Twitter account, a former colleague's feed, hipped me to this big gossip story. I guess singer Britney Spears was in a Sherman Oaks eatery, and she acted somewhat aberrant. Didn't threaten anybody, didn't break anything, didn't yell at anybody, but I guess she was kind of loud, and she did some weird things like carry her silverware around as she walked around the restaurant. And this former
I
colleague of mine,
think that's wholly rational for Britney Spears to like walk around slightly armed. I don't blame her one bit.
well, is CBS and Barry Weiss does everything they can to sort of degrade the high quality of the CBS News brand. The gossip trades are already kind of circling the drain. TMZ, Page Six, New York Post, People, you name it. They all covered the story about Britney chaos, more Britney chaos. This poor woman went to eat. She acted like, I guess she's not normal at this point, but they all kind of pile on her based on a single source story from a reporter who I won't get into his mental state, but I know him to be probably close to the borderline as Britney is. And he sure likes attention. He sold this thing to TMZ according to his Twitter feed and got a whole lot of the good stuff, got his newsletter featured by picking on this poor woman. It was kind of sad to see. I don't think she deserved it. I think it just shows you the level of stridency that our fine gossip rags are adhering to.
Right. I have to say that this is just a rerun of a very old uh, drama around Britney, who didn't deserve it when she was 16 with leering reporters basically panting at her, nor did any of the other young women who were coming up in that aughts era of
There's a
TMZ's
reason she gives us
fullness.
a lot of sympathy. There is.
Yeah. I mean, she and Lindsay Lohan and Monica Lewinsky. I mean, there's some accounting, I guess, now for some of that behavior, but you look at it and you go, God, that is just offensive, awful, terrible stuff. And this is just, oh, it's Britney, so we can tee off on it. It's like, give the
Exactly.
girl a break. Jesus. Um, there is another media storm building,
Oh, good.
perhaps less anticipated. Amazon has signaled that it's finally ready to look for the next Bond. Da-na, da, da-na. I was at MGM. I was at MGM when they were segueing from Pierce
Yeah.
to Daniel. And they sold the company before we got to Daniel Craig. But Pierce Brosnan Pierce Brosnan had basically saved the franchise. He did, I think, 5 movies. And it had been, Roger Moore was a little smarmy and ish, and it had kind of gone downhill. Brosnan comes in, very suave, very cool. Everybody wants to be Pierce because Pierce is a really great guy. My spouse knows him. Great guy, but also did a great job with the franchise. But it was time because they wanted to restart the franchise. They wanted to reboot it back, early Bond. So they need somebody who could bring a new kind of Bond, and that search was going on, and they hadn't quite cut the strings with Pierce. They gave him a little movie that it was a passion project for him as a thank you and stuff, but they hit it out of the park with Daniel Craig. But now, finally, after after they paid $8 billion for MGM, about twice what it was worth. And they paid another $1 billion to the Broccoli family to ask them to go away.
About this before, I've never understood the enduring. There's so much espionage, super mercenary. God,
Right.
I'm watching one right now. On Netflix. It's Man on Fire. He's highly trained, highly skilled. Collection.
I will only point out that Man on Fire is now the third video make version of
Right.
a book. So not that different from the 26 movies or 25 movies of Bond based on a bunch of books. It's just they don't have as many books. They only have one title to work with. So, you know,
Yes.
Bond, whatever you want to say about Bond, it has been copied and been profitable in lots of ways. The Matt Damon stuff with the Bourne conspiracy, et cetera, that was excellent. And, there's an undying interest in this stuff. The Night Manager, fantastic stuff with Tom Hiddleston. Fantastic. There's stuff out there.
It's a genre in of itself, and it's definitely the seminal one.
And then of course there's Slow Horses, which is the anti-Bond.
Right.
In the most entertaining way possible, yet still very compelling and thrillery and murderous and all that, on Apple TV. I strongly recommend those who haven't managed to find it, or the author who's behind those books. He's a great read. But this is going to be a thing, and it'll be interesting to see how they finally conduct the search for the next Bond, because it is intense. I was VP of corporate communications for MGM in that era, and every week some bloke in England would push 20,000 pounds into the one of the gambling houses there, the bookmaking places there, the legal bookmaking places there. And we'd immediately get a call because it would shift the odds that, Clive Owen or Rupert or somebody was going to be the next Bond. And we'd get it and they'd go, yeah, we don't have any comment. But I mean, it's like every week there was somebody, and we'd get the calls from the Red Tops, and for months. That's how that went. So this is going to be that.
Didn't they banter his name around a few years ago before we did this latest far right turn? Idris Elba, wasn't he like the next Bond? We're gonna have a black Bond. That was the big talk.
Idris Elba is fantastic. Would be an awesome Bond, and a remarkably poised and elegant performer who is also a physically imposing man, and would be awesome, except for the sound of exploding heads in the Bond fanboy world. They're already having a hard time with Lupita Nyong'o and Paige. The possibility of the person who's playing possibly Achilles in the Odyssey from Christopher Nolan might be a trans person, and Helen of Troy might be a Black African, one of the great beauties of the world in Lupita Nyong'o. But, oh my God, because she's not Greek. Well, none of the other performers are either. Matt Damon, not noted for his Greekness.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because he's a white guy, which is close enough to Greek for the critics. So these things are fraught. But I love Idris Elba, but, it's not happening. Actually, there's a cool one. There's a cool Riz Ahmed, a terrific Indian English actor, has a series on Amazon right now called Bait, where he's a up and down actor trying to be relevant, kind of lets it slip that, he's being considered to be the next Bond, and he's of Indian English background, not English background. Of course, none of them are English. They're all Welsh or Scottish or Irish, but minor detail. But it's a comedy, and it's quite good. And the guy that plays he's basically plucked the best Indian descent performers throughout the English acting scene to punch into this very funny little show. So strongly recommend, by the way.
There was also a global search conducted by the Questex Corporation for the next producer of their Stream TV newsletter. Turns out they wound up in the same place they were last year. It's us. We're producing the thing.
Right. They
Bernard,
just got bought too, didn't they? QuestX just got bought.
yeah, private
And
equity.
no, it wasn't us buying them, but we will do a leverage buyout soon enough.
Listen,
Could happen.
it'll all be one
It'll be
big
highly leveraged, let me just tell you. Oof. You saw Paramount was highly leveraged. Just wait.
Anyway,
But
we're excited to be in Denver once again with our good friends who love us and want us back. So looking forward to that. That's in
doing some
December.
work with Bevan Fletcher, the esteemed Bevan Fletcher, senior editor. Maybe she's got a new title, but she's at least a senior editor, despite her youthful demeanor. At
We'll have dates and
Stream TV News.
rates so you guys can all get in and sponsor us.
Yeah, sponsors. Hey, give us a holler. Give Dan a holler because he's like the guy that knows all that stuff. I'm just talent. Anyway, with that, we'll see you in Denver, if not before. Tuesday night is Westside Digital Mix. I'll be there with some of the coolest, most interesting people in 1212 Restaurant. Join me there.
Tuesday or Thursday?
Tuesday night. We're doing a special night because it's tied in with the Emmys. And the Interactive Emmy peer group is having a little thing, so it's tied in with some of that. And so it's just a little bit different night, a little bit different location. Should be a lot of fun and some interesting folks. Particularly if you're in TV, it's definitely a place to come.
I've got an Emmy assignment. I'm talking to the folks behind TBPN about their Emmy nomination, or they're seeking one, I guess, for their show.
They're seeking one. This is the nomination seeking period right now. Right. So the nominations, I don't think, come out until like either late June or early July. And then voting is in August. And then the big show is like the first week or two of September. That's the general calendar.
These are guys who do what we do, but they're, take that, double it, and add 30. And that's what they do.
Take that, double it, and add 30. Well, you were asking me to do math again. That's really not nice.
Do you remember Bob and Doug McKenzie, Rick Moranis, and Dave Thomas from SCTV, the Canadian?
I did interview one of them once, and he was an interesting guy. Yeah,
Dave Thomas would talk about
a bit of it. Yeah.
Double it,
a bit spiky, but very smart. So anyway. You hoser, we're going to head out of here. Like, share, subscribe, comment. You can sign up for free to our newsletter, which comes out twice a week at Next TMT, as in technology, media, not media, media and telecom. NextTMT.com. You can sign up for free. You can also find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And with that, we will wrap this up. I'm David Bloom here with my co-founder, Daniel Frankel. Thank you very much. We are out of here.